Great chiropractors and physical therapists are under constant pressure of declining insurance reimbursements and long hours. But did you know there's a way to double your profit without working more? By building a gym onto your practice, you can earn more income, stabilize your business, and be a hero to your family, patients, and team. It's a big undertaking with a huge reward. Dr. Josh Satterley has done it, changed his life, and now wants to help you do the same. Welcome to Clinic Gym Radio.
Hey, Ryan, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. So for the listeners out there, I'm on with Ryan DeBell from The Movement Fix. Ryan, can you give us a little story, a little history of what is The Movement Fix and who is Ryan DeBell?
Yeah. So, The Movement Fix has gone through many evolutions and it continues to evolve, but it originally started out as just my blog when I had a clinic that was named something different. Mm-hmm. And then as my blog grew, a lot of people didn't even know the name of my clinic. They just knew the name of my blog. So then I rebranded everything that I was doing as The Movement Fix.
Tells you the power of marketing, right?
Yeah, people, they would come in and be like, I didn't know your clinic name, so I just typed in Ryan The Movement Fix. And I went, well, I should probably just name everything that right now. So then I renamed my whole business to The Movement Fix. And that is subsequently transformed into more of like, I would say, a fitness and health education company than a clinic, which was really my original intention was just to have a clinic, but it transformed as things just naturally unfolded. And then myself, so I went to business school at the University of Washington where I studied management of information systems and technology. And then I got I didn't really want to go into the job roles that was going to lead me to. So I decided to go to chiropractic school.
Where'd you go?
I went to the University of Western States in Portland.
Cool.
And a lot of people ask me, why did you choose that over, let's say, medical school or PT? And as I reflect on myself, I think it's because I always from a young age wanted to do things that were like not the norm. And so that's probably what led me to like the field that was like the least, I guess, quote unquote, normal, let's say, between those three options.
Which is probably also why you went in Portland, because it's about as least normal of a city that college is offered in, right?
Well, I actually went there just because it was the closest one to Seattle. I didn't even apply anywhere else. I didn't even look anywhere else. I just went to the closest one. I didn't even do any research. I was like, okay, I'll just go here. So then I went there, got my doctorate in chiropractic medicine, and then I also got a master's degree in exercise science. And then upon graduating, I moved back to Seattle and then opened up my clinic, which was a process that took like 7 to 8 months.
That was not called The Movement Fix.
That was not. It was just a generic name, and then transformed that into The Movement Fix, and then like I've also done some additional things like Health Fit Business, which is I guess you could call it a joint venture with my friend Dr. Anthony Gustin, who I went to school with. Who he and I made that It's a podcast. And we also have online courses and a book that we did, but it's basically to like help educate healthcare and fitness professionals on business principles.
Very cool.
Primarily on scaling beyond yourself, which typically is the hardest thing for people is how do they scale beyond their own time?
Yeah, well, if we have time today, I certainly like to get into that because, this podcast is aimed at folks who have a clinic or adding a gym or adding a level of complexity, but also they're going to take on some employees. They're going to, be building a team. Right. They're going to have to cast their vision. And those are all things that I'm sure you guys address, because there's really no way to explode in growth unless you handle some basic business parts, right?
Yeah. And also just to realize that, you can multiply your time using money. So like,
I like that. Say that again.
You can multiply your time using money. And what I mean by that is, let's say like you only have 24 hours a day, but if you can pay somebody and use money, you could get another 24 hours a day, but you could get another 8 hours a day by paying someone. And so the more that you do that, the more revenue that you have, which then allows you to like have more people working for you. So then you can essentially multiply your time using resources that you gather. So that's what I mean by that.
Fantastic. And that company is called what? Health Fit Business?
Health Fit Business. Yeah. Cool. So we have a podcast. There's like 56 episodes or 57 episodes that are 15 minutes in length with just quick little tidbits of information.
Fantastic. Well, let's go back to the Movement Fix, because that's where I first heard about you. That's where I first virtually met you. Not a real relationship, just a podcast-based relationship, right?
Yes.
I feel like I know you. Do you get that, by the way? Do you get that a lot of people go, oh my God, you're Ryan DeBell? And, it
depends where I am.
Okay. You're a hero. You're a hero if the niche is small enough, right? Like if you.
Yeah. And then I just remind them that I'm just a regular person who made videos in his garage for a while.
Well, hey, Steve Jobs started in his garage, so the future's bright for you, buddy.
Yeah. It's like, I just make videos. That's all.
Yeah. Now the Movement Fix, again, we have a virtual relationship, and this is the first time we've actually talked in person, but or as close to person as we can. Yeah. But it seems like you are of the same. I love to put myself in this group, but you're really kind of pushing the edge of the envelope of what is the new version of chiropractic. What are chiropractors delivering to their patients in this modern? Really a kind of brand or a flavor that's developed. I think really in the last 5 years. Yeah. Would you say that's pretty much true?
Yeah, and I think it needs to continue developing in order for the profession to survive.
Hallelujah, brother. Preach. Yeah, absolutely.
It has to happen that way. And I just don't see any other in school, like chiropractic students and new graduates who take my course. And there's so many that are coming into the field with that viewpoint that it's a really good thing. And it makes me happy. Yeah. And I hope to continue to be like someone who's willing to like put myself out there and be like, I just don't believe in what people used to believe.
Yeah. Well, I think I graduated, I don't know how long you've been in practice. I graduated about 11 years ago. And I was telling somebody, back then it wasn't a necessity to have a soft tissue tool like a Graston or ART or FRC or whatever you're using. And now it seems like it's a necessity. And I hope that in another couple of years, it's a necessity to have a soft tissue chiropractic adjustment and great rehab skills,
that's probably the progression. It'll be like, it used to just be joint manipulation, then joint manipulation plus soft tissue treatment, and then joint manipulation plus soft tissue treatment plus exercise. And then certain things will be like, if you think about those three, like if you think about it like an equalizer, you could look at the levels of those three things. I'm sure that over time it will be weighted more and more toward the rehab side of things and less towards the hands-on. Like that becomes clear to me all the time that just seems like the way it has to happen.
Yeah. And it's funny because the physical therapists, I think there are a lot of great physical therapists out there. They had the great rehab, level you're saying, but they are backfilling it with, they need some manipulation techniques.
Yeah. I think that, each profession has their strengths, and in a chiropractic program, there's a lot of hands-on work, and that just takes time and, reps of doing that. So I think that's certainly a strength of students coming out.
Yeah, well, I love the fact that you're interested in the profession moving forward, because I certainly am. And that's why we have this podcast, is to, I really only want to work with the greatest of the clinicians out there. Are there any other trends you're seeing besides that kind of bringing in the rehab and soft tissue work? Any other trends that you see pushing the profession forward going on right now?
Oh gosh. I think that's really the thing that I see the most.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And can you kind of talk about, now let's talk from a business sense. So these only works if you have a really healthy business, right? If you have a clinic that closes, you can be the greatest provider in the world, just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What do you see going on that side? Because I know you have that additional kind of offering you have over there.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing for any business currently in the healthcare field is just the uncertainty of health insurance. Like they keep changing the rules. So I think figuring out I don't know that there's an answer to that. Like even hospitals are struggling because when the rules change and you don't know what the reimbursement rate's going to be, it's hard to really do the math. But I think figuring out how can you, so it really comes down to how can you provide so much value to the patient that the value outweighs the expense for them. So if you're providing something that's worth $100 to them and they're paying $80, like that, just by laws of like economics and incentives basically would drive them to want to pay for that. So, how can you think about, how do we provide the best service? How do we provide something that's so valuable to them that it's not like, that seems like a lot. And then, if their coverage is not as good as everyone would hope for, they still will come because the service is so good.
Right. Back in the days of the $5 copay, it was okay to just do a manipulation and then send them on their way, right?
Right. Yeah. Now it's just not that way. It's like so you have to think about, like, as soon as every interaction with your business and, every time they step foot in the business, or how, whatever ways they interact, like, those all need to be really good. And the service provided has to be really good and efficient. Because people don't want to come in and, like, sit around for 30 minutes when it could be done in 15 minutes. And I think that a lot of times, it's like, I want to give my patients more time. It's like, yeah, but you know what? They're busy too. And maybe they don't want to be there for 30 minutes. Like, everyone thinks that, like, I'm going to make my appointments really long. Yeah, but if they're busy, they have kids, they got stuff to do, maybe they don't want that. It's like, hey, can you just show me what to do in the 15 minutes that I'm here, and then I'll go do it on my own?
Right.
And especially, I think, coming out of school, there's that mindset of, like, more time is more valuable to them. Well, unless they're not busy at all. But if they're busy, they're not going to want to be there for that long.
And you certainly don't want to have the perception that you're just taking, that you're taking their time, because, the value to them may be, like you're saying, a very efficient schedule. Maybe value is in and out in 12 minutes because I need to, I'm going in between dropping my kids off and, picking up my other kid. Yeah, exactly. So, like, being long-winded just for the sake of your own thought that more time is better isn't necessarily true. Yeah. So thinking about, like, who's my demographic that I'm working with? Yeah, one of the smartest guys I've ever met. He actually trained and this is kind of off a little bit off what you're saying, but he trained his front desk staff to run the disc profile verbally on his patients incoming, so that if you were a high D, a high I, you would get a different color folder in your patient chart. So it would tell the rest of the staff how to deal with you. Because when you deal with people the way they want to be dealt with, it increases their perception of value. When you tell that high D, like, hey, here's how it is, just period. Do 6 of those and basically then go up to the front desk. They're like, oh, okay, I like this place. Yeah. Yeah. So I think, understanding the psychology, like the different viewpoints psychologically that people have, is really important. How you word things, how you deal with them. Like you said, that could also be really change the value perception. Yeah. Now, in your business there, do you have some specific tactics you think, like, every provider, I mean, let's just talk to those people, like you're saying, coming out of school, they're fresh, they want to make an impression on these patients. They want to, basically, they're excited to get into this world of healthcare, and insurance be damned, I'm going to make a go of it no matter what. Do you have some basic tips you think every new grad should really listen to? In terms of, like, to accomplish what exactly? Well, just to have a solid business. Like, so you said that Health Fit Biz was all about kind of moving forward and helping them expand, right? Okay. Yeah. I would say, like, think about what is the actual problem that you're trying to solve for the patient. So, like, for example, let's say they come in with shoulder pain and you're like, well, I do Graston and ART and whatever. They're like, I don't care. Like, my shoulder hurts. Can you make my shoulder feel better? And I think that a lot of people come out of school focused on themselves and how credentialed they are and all the classes they've taken. The patient doesn't care. Like, hey, my shoulder hurts. I can't get a cup out of the top cupboard. Like, do those things that you're mentioning make that better or not? Like, that's what people want to know. And so I think focusing on, like, what is the effect of the problem on the person's life, and how do you frame things to let them know that you're going to solve that? So addressing every intervention you're going to do, we're going to do this ... so that you can reach those cups out of the top cupboard, or so that you don't have pain. Yeah, I mean, getting dressed. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on the person too. Like, some people would be like, look, I don't even care what you do, just make it feel better. Right. So then if you start to talk to that person about, like, yeah, I'm doing ART, I'm released, they're like, dude, just do what you do and make it feel better. Right. When you go to your mechanic, you don't go, hey, what brand of wrench did you use on my truck? Right. I want to make sure it was this Craftsman style. And you're like, exactly. So, like, yeah, we fixed it. If you visualize yourself getting a problem solved in a field that you are not familiar with, think about what you would want to know. Yeah. I'm going to take my car to my brakes are squeaking, right? So I take my car to wherever they do brakes. And if they were like, oh yeah, we do this technique I'd be like, dude, I don't care. Just make my brakes not squeak and I got to go drive my car. Like, that's how people view us. They're like, dude, I don't care. Just make my shoulder feel better so I can do what I want to do. I don't care, like, how you do it. Like, right. Do you know how to do it, and can you do a good job? Great. Then I'll trust you, because
Like, I don't know enough about car mechanics to be like, oh, I need to make sure that they do this and this and this. Like, do they have good ratings on the internet? Do they seem confident? Do they take good care of me? Great. Then I'll pay for that. And then is the problem solved? Yes.
I think that's a fantastic analogy too, because like you're saying, do they have good ratings on the internet? Think about a auto shop. So 90% of what's going on there, you're not privy to. You don't see it, right? It's behind closed doors.
Yeah.
But why would they have high ratings? Is like, hey, my car is not a mess when I pick it up. It's actually fixed. The guy at the desk was nice. Like, it's so basic customer service stuff.
Well,
go ahead.
And to people who go to a clinic, it's like, it's literally the same to them. They don't know what you're doing. They don't know the anatomy of the shoulder. They don't, like, if you went to a car and they're like, yeah, you know, we had to unscrew this and unscrew this, you're like, I don't know the parts of a car. I just like, so if you're like, well, this thing with your shoulder, some people might really want to know that. Other people are just like, I don't know. Dude, I'm worried about everything else in my life. Like, you know,
I don't care about my PXV valve or whatever you had to replace.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that we get so focused on our own area of expertise because we're in school for so long. We're trying to learn. We read and take courses and stuff. We forget what other people's perception is of their body, of what they're trying to get done.
We will return to our interview with Ryan DeBell right after this.
Are you a chiropractor or physical therapist working long hours, worrying about lower repayments and missing out on quality time with your family? You can double your income without working more hours by adding a gym to your practice. Clinic Gym Hybrid Solutions has a step-by-step guide that dramatically simplifies and speeds up the addition of a fitness center and its monthly recurring revenue. In just 6 months, you can be on your way to freedom. Visit clinicgymhybrid.com today for a free downloadable PDF and complimentary consultation to get you started. That's clinicgymhybrid.com.
There's one steadfast rule in business is your customers only want to hear about one person, and that's themselves. They don't care about you, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, I saw the same thing a lot, like, because one of the areas that I'm growing my business in is digital products, like programs to help people. Because a lot of people, let's say someone had a shoulder problem, they're not necessarily going to go see someone immediately. A lot of times they'll find solutions. They'll look for solutions on the internet. Okay. So a lot of people make digital products. And one thing I noticed was that a lot of people were putting, like, on their Black Friday sales, they were saying, get 30% off all of my products this weekend. And it's like, no one who's a potential customer is like looking, be like, oh, I want 30% off your products. They want 30% off of something that's going to help them.
Of their solutions, right? Yeah, that's what they're looking for.
It's like, that's like a very egocentric message. Whereas the person's like, look, it's not about you. It's about, like, my thing that I'm trying to fix. So if you were like, hey, you know, let's say it was a weight loss program. You could say, like, start losing weight today. All programs are 30% off to help you meet your goals. Like, that's a very different message than, like, get 30% off these cool programs I wrote.
Yeah.
And, you know, that kind of thought process can be applied to all areas of business.
Yeah. I had somebody tell me one time, you know, if you ever want to know what to say to a customer in a small room, imagine you're up on stage. You know, you would never say, I am so-and-so, and I am certified in this, and I am certified in that, up on a stage, right?
Yeah.
If you're up on a stage, you'd say you as much as you can. And that's exactly how we should pitch it.
Exactly.
One-to-one. So, well, very cool. Can you kind of take us through a little bit of that? You were talking about your health fit biz, like that, that kind of, what do you guys offer over there to these clinicians that are maybe looking to expand? Yeah.
So, well, we have the primary free resource that we have is the podcast, which, as I mentioned before, are about 15 to 20 minute episodes on different topics.
So they're not long rambling interviews like this one. They're actually like short lessons, right?
They're short lessons that it's like 1 or 2 actionable things to do. So it's very action based. Like, okay, here's this thing that Anthony and I have been thinking about that's been helping us. Here's the challenge for you if you want to take action on it, and then done. So if people want like short little tidbits, it's more that. And then if someone wants a longer form conversation, it's, you know, that would be just a different podcast. And then the 2 products that we offer an online course, which is really setting the foundation for clinicians and gym owners and trainers, et cetera, to understand how to scale their business and why and what they really want to accomplish. A lot of people want to grow a business, but they don't really think about why and how what their time looks like, how to value their time, how to like think about the revenue possibilities and what they could do with that revenue. So that course has like, I think it has like 70. We made a check, like we don't consider people to have completed the course unless they finish the checklist that goes along with the course. And I think there's like 70 actionable items.
Wow.
So if people go through the course, they've completed 70 things they wouldn't otherwise complete, which could be like a thought exercise, like a thought experiment, or it could be optimizing or automating some sort of process within their business, things like that. So there's 70 of those.
Wow.
Yeah,
So this is like a real MBA. This is how an MBA should be in 70 easy steps for a fraction of the cost, right?
Well, I don't know. I don't have an MBA, so I can't speak to the curriculum of an MBA.
But you're talking about, an MBA, I always laugh. It's like, like they don't even talk about delegation. And it's like, can you think of anything more important if you want to scale? Like,
right. Yeah. So we have a section on delegation. Like, for example, like I think I haven't looked at the checklist in a while. I should probably know this off the top of my head, but something like delegate three things that you have been doing that you shouldn't be doing yourself. So like the course isn't complete unless you now have changed something that you're doing. Because like what we don't want people to buy, like this is a side business for both of us that we don't need revenue from. Like it's not about us like selling this course. It's about actually getting people to make changes in what they're doing. And so like, that's why it's like, look, we don't just want you to watch the videos. We want you to actually do this, because that's why you bought the course, is to actually change. And like, if you just sit around and watch the videos but you don't do anything, like you just wasted your money. You have to actually do things. And so that's why we have the checklist, so that like, this is the thing you have to do. It's clearly defined. Then the other item or product that we have is the, what used to be called the Daily Domination Journal. Mm-hmm. We made that was a 30-day journal, essentially how to organize your day and structure it for maximal productivity and like thought process. And so we actually launched that 1 year ago yesterday, I think it was. And we just sold the last copy last week of our initial order.
Congratulations, man. That's huge.
Thank you. And so our second version, which is called the Daily Growth Journal, we just actually, the first 100 arrived today by air, and the other several thousand are arriving by sea in like 6 weeks. But those will be available very soon. And that's a 90-day journal. But what we did was each day there's a daily challenge. So there's a little checkbox and then a daily challenge that we designed to slowly chip away at people's deep habits that limit them from creatively growing their business and enjoying their lives. So
can you kind of go into that? Because I think there's a lot of people going, oh yeah, like there's all these, there's all sorts of journals out there.
Yeah, right.
But
and the problem with all these journals, it's like, write down 3 things you're grateful for. Write down 3 things.
My dog, my washing machine.
Right. And then it's
good friends.
It's the same thing every day, which can be good in a certain way. But I think that those products are severely lacking. And so in the journal, there's the daily challenge. So for example, they start off easy because behavior change is challenging. So one of them might be, go to the store and buy a vegetable that you have never eaten before and eat it. So that's good. So what that does is it makes people like realize they can actually do different things than they normally do, because most people get so stuck in their habitual routines that breaking out of it seems weird. And so if you can slowly break out of your daily routine, suddenly it's like you can make changes in your business with less friction. And so like that can be a gradual process, especially people coming out of school. It's like you've been given a schedule by the school. Here's the schedule. Here's the testing schedule. Here's when your breaks are. When you come out of school, and especially if you start your own business, there is nothing. You have to figure it all out. And like developing that flexibility of thinking is not easy to do. So there's 90 different challenges throughout the 90 days. And what we did was we thought about every category of life that could affect the way someone thinks and how their mood is. And then we broke those down into progressively more challenging tasks. And so those are sprinkled through the journal. And then in the journal, there's also like, if you could only accomplish 2 things today that would make today successful, what would those 2 things be? And then at the nighttime section, there's a reflection. Did you do those 2 things? And then probably the more important question is, if you didn't do them, what could you have done differently today so you could have accomplished those tasks? because you have to evaluate your own actions so that in the future you can improve. So you have to know, like, what was I trying to do? And then if you didn't do them, why not? How could you have changed your day? How could you have structured things differently? How could you have put yourself in a better mindset? And then there's a section for time blocking to block out the time to accomplish the things that you need to accomplish. So it's really like a lot of journals I feel they're great to kind of feel good, but they're sort of fluff. Like this journal was designed like if you actually want to take what you do.
And it sounds like, a lot of them are designed to, own your morning and your emotions and, your positivity. And you're going, hey, this is to change your business. Like, it's very focused.
Yeah. And it's like, it isn't just like quotes that make you excited. Like quotes that make you excited, like those are good. Like if you need motivation, it's very helpful to have that. But at the end of the day, like you actually have to do things differently. Like if you want something to change in your business or your life, you have to do it differently. And that can be hard. So that's why we slowly chip away at it. We try to build a structure that allows people to then place, items in their day and their life into it so they can actually increase their productivity, which, and like one of the things too is like, we want to give people some of their time back.
That's huge because that's the only when you feel like you're struggling against, you're struggling against the waves and people are like, oh yeah, you're going to grow and build these systems and do this. You're like, there's no way. Like I can't even keep my head above water now.
Right. Exactly. And that's because there's no structure to how they're thinking about their problems. There's not a systematic way to execute. There's, you're not prioritizing the things that are like going to give you returns without additional input.
Yeah. Can you kind of pause there real quick? What are some things you see people doing a lot of that you're just like shaking your head going, come on, man, break out of here. Checking
their phone 5,000 times a day.
Hold on. Let me check my Instagram here. Yeah. Go on. What else?
If people stopped checking their phone notifications, you would probably gain like 2 hours a day.
Oh yeah. I turn my notifications to silent. So if there's a text, it'll pop up on the screen, but it won't actually make a sound.
I don't have any notifications.
Well, you're better than me then. I was just saying it just getting rid of the sound. Yeah. No, just getting rid of the sound. I was impressed or I was surprised at how much that just changed your psychology. Yeah. You're not doing the Pavlov dogs, man.
Yeah, I know. So I was thinking about this. I was like, why should I let an app cue my behavior or like prompt my behavior? For example, if I'm reading something and I'm really into it and then a text message banner pops down, I immediately cannot continue what I was doing. And so like I'm choosing to let someone else or some app break my focus. And then like it sucks me into this. And then I start like, you can't get anything done if you're doing that.
No, it's totally inefficient. Trying to do 5 things at once, which is answer the text, read that novel. And by the way, not just read, but learn from it. That's the whole point of why you're reading.
Exactly.
And then say, hey, how could I take action in my life? So
yeah, exactly. So I think like if people turned off those and then also time blocked, like, hey, you know what? For 1 hour today, I'm going to read about some marketing thing. And then tomorrow for 1 hour, I'm going to build some marketing system that I can set in motion versus like kind of jumping from one thing to the other. Like focus on building one thing to completion and then move on. And that's again why I think like it's important to not be interrupted by like train yourself that interruptions of your focus are bad. Because if you're okay with a text message interrupting your reading, then you're really not valuing your ability to focus on one thing until you are done.
Yeah. Now, were these learned behaviors on your part? Or, I mean, did you screw this up at first like everybody else? Or
Yeah, I was a train wreck.
Yeah. We'll talk about that transition because I'm sure people are like, oh, yeah, it's easy to say and you sound so perfect. And they see here's the thing, like when you see the Movement Fix now, when you go on there, it looks clean. The production's perfect. You have great guests. You're interviewing Gray Cook. But it didn't always start out that way, right?
No, there were a lot. Oh, my gosh. Like, yeah, I'll be very frank about it. Like, so I did a video every Monday for like 2.5, 3 years in a row. And there were a lot of Sunday nights where I went, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't want to do, like, I have no desire to make a video. And a lot of like self-doubt for sure, where I was like, why am I even doing this? Like there were definitely some low moments for sure.
When did that change? Like what point were you like a year and a half in? Was it, your 200th video?
I don't think it ever changes.
You still have doubt? It's good.
I think so. I
think it's good for people to hear that, because like when they're like, hey, I'm going to do this marketing system, I think that there is like a fear there that you have to go, what will I be like when this is successful?
Yeah.
And am I comfortable there? Because you're going to get some people recognize you in the supermarket. You're going to get, people calling you and thanking you and doing all that. And are you truly comfortable with that idea?
Yeah. And so like, for example, back when I started teaching workshops, like probably in 2013 or 14, like I probably had to cancel half of them. Like because I didn't sell enough spots. So, but I kept doing it because I was like, I think the message I'm trying to get across is important. So even though like 50%, you would not pass a class. So like that's failing, right? But like it's failing uphill.
In marketing though, 50%, you're the greatest marketer on the face of the earth if it works.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I mean, now it's probably like, it's higher than that, but it's certainly not like there's still ones I have to cancel. And it's still, when I have to cancel a class, I'm like, wow, the thought that I have personally is like, have I just been coincidentally lucky so far? Like that's the self-doubt thought that goes through my head. And, if other people have that thought too, it's like, I think that's kind of normal.
Yeah. Like, I'm sure that there's some people going, oh, thank God, this is good to hear. And I think that's one of the other things, by the way, about that distraction of shutting off those notifications. When you're in that like ping pong state, when you're bouncing between 5 different things, there's no time to pause and get confidence in what you're doing, whether that is reading that book and understanding that book or planning out, some project you need to do for your office. There's no time to build that inner confidence because you're constantly like dipping your toe in the water, dipping your toe in the water, dipping your toe in the water. It's like, dive in.
It's literally the worst thing you could do. And like, there's such an amazing sense of satisfaction when you actually complete something. And if you can just put the desire to like check notifications, apps, stats, etc. to the side while you solely focus on completing something and then it's done, it feels so good. It feels so much better than that short little gratification you get if you're, people like your Instagram post. That's the real satisfaction when you actually see something that was in your mind and then you made it real and it's done. Like that's really satisfying.
Just out of curiosity, in the last like 6 to 12 months, what's the most satisfying thing you've completed? What's something people can look at and go, man, and you can tell them like that was a struggle. That was, that was a marathon effort, but I did it. Was the journal like that? Oh, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
The journal version 2.0 took me forever to get done, actually. But
anything that comes overseas on a boat usually has a couple headaches involved with it.
Yeah. I found that out when my books got stuck at customs for like a month. I think what I decided to do about this time last year was I wanted to teach classes in places that were very far away as a challenge to myself. So I taught a class in Belgium, and then I taught a class in Estonia, and then I taught a class in Sydney.
Wow.
And then like trying to extend that to places that aren't just local. It was hard. I mean, I had to figure out like, do I need a visa? How do I do that? Like, how do you market in Belgium? How do you market in Estonia where they speak, English primarily?
Sure.
So that was, and then simultaneously while that was happening, I made like 3 training programs. So like that was a lot of work at once. And then like I had all these half done programs that I was like, I have to get these complete. So what I did was I canceled like one of the things that I do that's certainly a flaw is like trying to do too many things at once. I mean, I think a lot of people do that. And so I probably canceled like 4 pending projects I was doing just so I could focus on bringing one to absolute completion and bring it to market so it was available for sale. And that was really hard for me to take a lot of things away just to bring one thing all the way to final product that a consumer could purchase. Yeah,
it's funny because nobody ever, they think I'm just going to I don't know how to say this. It's like, I'm going to finish this project, and you realize it's not the bulk of the project. It's the little tiny details associated with it that really just are salt in a paper cut. I mean, it's like, there's no big wound here, but my God, it's painful.
Right. Like how many times I had to go back. So like one of the things I wanted to do with the programs I made was like, I wanted them to be beautifully designed PDF documents that were as clear as possible with the way the programming was written, with the wording, the way you watch the videos, like minimalism, but with the most information conveyed.
So it'd be super easy because you're talking about less information.
Sometimes I had back and forth. Yeah. The number of times I had to go back and forth with the designer because there was one little semicolon or there was one little space that was messed up. And I'm like, I can't, it has to be like the way it's written has to be the same from day to day. And like, I probably went back like 30 times and then thumbing through the whole thing, looking for these, making sure all the links worked correctly. And there's like, 200 linked words in there. So I had to check all those to make sure, because even though the designer tells me it's done, I go through and click them and some of them are still like not linked to the right video. Like that's the hard part. Like having the idea and having the vision is fun. Going through the scrappy details to bring it to a place where it's like a completed is really challenging and tiring, like really tiring. So, but that's the last 5%. Like the fun stuff's done at that point. Like the exciting stuff is done.
Yeah. I ran a marathon, and I'm a big dude. So I'm not, but I just did the marathon as a training thing. And the amount of effort it took to go from mile 1 to 13 was like 7% of the total effort required to cross the finish line. It was like an exponential growth model. And when I was at 24 and a half, I can remember there was you wouldn't, anywhere else you wouldn't have called it a hill. It looked like a parking lot where a shopping cart could still not roll down. But I was looking up and it was like, I just had to climb like 6 inches over the course of like a quarter mile. And I was like, oh God, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah.
But that's how some of these projects are, man, which is what's such a huge deal. So if people are like, if they're in that state, if they're struggling, like, hey, I want to grow my practice, I want to do this, I want to become that person I dreamt of. Because I always say, like, maximize your license and live the life you dreamt of. Because I don't know about you, Ryan, but I had these dreams when I was in chiropractic college. Like, oh man, I'm going to be making all sorts of money with this license, and I'm going to do this for my family. I'm going to do that for myself, and do this and blah blah. And at some point, insurance, whoever, real life, whatever it is, time clock, it all just starts crushing and just eating away at those dreams, right? And at some point, you got to just, hey man, I'm going to achieve. You got to decide either the insurance companies are going to win or you're going to win, and you got to make the decision. And when you do, yes, it's going to be a hell of a fight. And what I hope everybody here is listening. Ryan is saying, you got to use certain tools and weapons and tactics. Like time blocking is your weapon against, the modern world we live in. But if you employ those, you can grow, right? You can grow exponentially. Yeah.
I mean, like if you want, like, can you imagine playing a game and you didn't know the strategies? Like you would get destroyed. But you didn't know, like if you played Monopoly and you didn't know, like, oh, if I own all 3 of these, I can put hotels on them. It's like, you're just like not putting any houses on your Monopoly properties.
Right.
And like, so incorporating these things it's like, you have to understand how the game is played so that you actually can win.
Right. And by the way, it's not set up. Nobody's going to come forward with an instruction book, but that's essentially what your journal is, right? It's like an instruction book of, hey, here's how to kind of start to break out of the matrix. It's not.
That's a good, the matrix. That's a whole other topic, but
it's not total pathway, right? Like you're not going to be able to stop bullets, but at that first point where they're like, it's different. They're trying to explain to him that, hey, you can get out of this. They're trying to explain to Neo that he can get out of this. He just has to believe. Like that's what your journal's doing, right? 90 days to realize there is a matrix. How about that?
Yeah, because as soon as you realize that, like, and that's, again, that comes back to why we put those daily challenges in there, to realize that you can actually change more than you think. You're just stuck in thinking you have to do it the way you always did it, and that life always has to be the same, and it doesn't.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, look at what you've done over the last couple of years of developing this whole new I don't know what you want to say, these whole new strategies, pathways, instead of just going into an office and just trading time for money, doing, one-on-one treatments, which I'm not saying that that's bad.
It's just one of many
great
routes.
care. Yeah.
So our first episode of the Health Fit Business podcast really talks to that point, which is, okay, we have a concept of what we call 10 or 10,000. Okay. Let's say you could help 10 people in a day at your office. Okay. You could help them at a very deep level.
Right.
So if you think about it like area under the curve, you can help 10 people at a high level. So the area under the curve would be, a certain amount. Then if you could help 10,000 people because of a different, let's say, style of business, like let's say Health Fit Business or one of Anthony's companies or Movement Fix or something, I can help maybe 10,000 people in a day via videos or podcasts or whatever, but I can't help them at as deep of a level. So the area under the curve might be more, it might be less. It just depends on how do you want to approach your career? Do you want to and you know what? Some people really value the depth they can help one person at, or 10 people or 1,000 people over a year or whatever, or 10,000 people in a year. And it really depends on what are your strengths. For example, I don't do well working with people one-on-one. I just don't. I do much better thinking and asking questions and trying to challenge things and trying to teach things simply to a lot of people. That's just the way it is. And I had to come to terms with that. That's just who I am. And that wasn't easy. So
I'm sure it wasn't too easy being in a profession where you essentially elected one-on-one, huh?
Right, exactly. And then I realized, you know what? The way I am and the way I think and the way I view the world, it's not for me. So then I used the skills that I have to still help people, but a larger number, but at a smaller depth. And that's okay. There's a place for that, because there's a lot of people who have shoulder pain, for example, who aren't going to go to an office, and they're going to look for a solution online. So I might as well offer the best solution to them, or a solution that is really well done. That's how I think of it. And then other people, some of my friends that I went to school with, they love the one-on-one. And that's great, because then someone can go see them for one-on-one. And if they have low-level issues that they're not going to pay someone for, but they're going to look on the internet or something, then I can help that person. And it's all a big web of people trying to help other people, decrease their suffering and stuff. So
that's great, man.
That's how
Well, as we kind of wrap up here, I feel like we've been all over the map, and that's probably me being distracted by, the life, because you're saying so many things that I just resonate with. But, we're talking to great chiropractors and telling them keep pushing forward, keep doing those amazing things. You're talking about, hey, if you're great, develop a great business. And I 100% agree with that. Break out of the matrix and really look at what you want to do long-term, because if you can get people to look just 3 years down the road, if you're, I was talking to a guy today, he's 38 years old. What do you want Christmas to be like at 41? What do you want to, what do you want to have under the tree for your kids? Think about those kind of emotionally charged times and thoughts, and then kind of backfill and go, what I'm currently doing, is that going to get me there? Or is that going to move me at least closer to that so I can reach for it? It doesn't have to get you all the way there, but does it allow you to get closer? So your journal will help kind of rattle that Etch-a-Sketch and kind of get them started on a path moving forward, right?
Right. And then if not, what can you start doing right now to change the course?
Right.
And that's really where I think that's where the rubber meets the road. Actually changing what you're doing.
Yeah. By the way, that's not easy thinking. I don't want anybody listening to think that I'm brushing this off as simple. Some of that deep thinking and admitting to yourself, you had to admit, I'm not good one-on-one. That shit is hard, man.
Yeah. It's a huge identity crisis. We did, many episodes. We did one particular Health Fit Business episode on identity crises, being it wasn't, I took a personality test, the 16 personalities or Myers-Briggs. And I was reading it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really, really scary how correct this is. and then one of the things it said is this person does not do well with one-on-one work or something like that. And I went, oh, okay.
There's where that friction in my life has been coming from.
Exactly. And then I go, okay, well, how do I use what skills I do have to still help people?
Yeah.
It's not like you can't, and some people listening to this might go like, they can't relate to that because we're just like different types of people. And other people might be listening to this and going, yeah, you know what? I can relate to that.
Yeah. You're talking right to me. Yeah.
Yeah. And so can you still help people the way that they need to be helped, but find a way that works better for who you are? You'll probably be way more successful. Because when you actually enjoy it and there's not that friction, it makes it way easier to do what needs to be done.
Yeah. Well, along those lines, in our final minutes here, you just brought up a great point. Something that doesn't benefit Ryan or me, but will benefit you, the listener, greatly is, take a Myers-Briggs and, this, as we're coming up on the new year right now, this being recorded right before the new year, make this the year you understand yourself, and then everything else becomes easy, man, Yeah, but where can people find you, get a hold of you? Can you sling my listeners a special deal on that journal if they want to kind of get out of the matrix? Yeah,
sure. We could do a coupon for your listeners, Clinic Gym 10.
Okay.
We'll get 10% off the new journal, which is at healthfit.biz/journal.
Say that address again for us.
Yep. healthfit.biz, biz/journal. And then the coupon code ClinicGym10 will get, actually I'll make that $10 off. So it'll actually be 30% off.
Woo!
So we'll get $10 off the journal for your listeners.
I appreciate that.
And then, yeah, absolutely.
And then from that site, can they find all these other resources that you spoke of?
On that site is all the podcast episodes and the online courses on that site as well. So that's where people can find the business resources. And then Movement Fix is themovementfix.com and the Movement Fix podcast. So that's where those things live.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Ryan, man, you've provided a ton here. Lots to think about, especially for those people who are really, I'm sure that at some point in this conversation, they thought, you know what, I think there's some friction that I can handle too. So I encourage everybody, man, think about that life you dreamt of years ago and what will it take to achieve that? And that's all I'm going to say. You got any last parting words for our listeners?
Just take action. Do it now. Don't wait.
There you go. Yeah. Well, on behalf of Ryan DeBell, this is Dr. Josh Satterley saying maximize your license and live the life you've dreamt of. Thank you so much, Ryan. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Clinic Gym Radio. If you're ready to double your profit without working longer hours, please visit clinicgymhybrid.com and find out how easy it is to get started on your path to freedom. That's clinicgymhybrid.com.